Hi there, and welcome to my NECA 19-inch Predator review. I've been waiting for these figures for more than 15 years, at least. Ever since I've been collecting, I've wanted a large-scale Predator. And NECA finally came through and gave us not one, not two, but three Predators. All the bodies are the same. They just gave us three different heads. Some people took issue with that. I don't. I would rather have had three different ones. It's just more to love, in my opinion, than just have one body and having to switch heads every time I want to change expressions. That would have gotten really old really fast. So instead, they gave us three different representations to display the various moods of the Predator. This is the P1 Predator 2. Not from any of the sequels. This is the original bad boy. The one that threw down with Arnold. And I am more than happy with the work that NECA did on him. Every nook and cranny of the armor is there. The body netting is real, even though it's a very thin plastic. It's not fabric. There are some online who are having issues with the netting, breaking on them. But I'm hoping that as long as I don't touch it too much, it'll be okay. That's my hope. The reality might be something different. But I inspected it and there's no rips anywhere. So far so good. NECA really nailed the body type, the body language of Kevin Peter Hall, the actor who played the Predator, who sadly passed away after he completed work on Predator 2. He was the go-to guy in Hollywood if you wanted a very tall monster. In addition to playing the Predator, he also played Harry in Harry and the Hendersons. Another one of my favorite characters. Very different from the Predator, to say the least. It's fairly heavy. They're 5 or 6 pounds a piece, so if you're going to display them on a shelf, make sure that shelf is firmly on the wall, because if it's not, if that Predator decides to go, it's going to take the shelf with it. So I've got mine in the wall with metal drywall anchors, so mine aren't going anywhere. I came up with this idea for a jungle foliage background for them. All it is just plastic garland that I got at AC Moore. I only bought 3 at first. I thought, it'll be enough. I'll just cut it up and use it behind all 3 of them. Yeah, wasn't enough. I had to go back and buy more. There are 2 of each behind each figure, in addition to a plastic tree that I placed next to them, just to give it, fill it out a little more, give it a little more pop from the wall, and to cover some of the gaps in between the garland. I may go back and get another set of garland for each, just to fill in, spaces like this. But I don't know, it works fine the way it is right now. I weathered mine a little bit. When it came out of the box, it was far too clean for my taste. The helmet and the armor were this clean silver. So I took some black water-based acrylic and just kind of dabbed it on and blended it with my fingers. Give it a little more worn look. The Predator may have been squeaky clean when he came to Earth, but by the time we saw him in the movie, he was pretty much weathered and dirty from living in the jungle. And as you can see, I also made a mixture of Predator blood. It's just lily pad green and fluorescent yellow mixed in. I think I started with 6 or 7 drops of the fluorescent and put in 1 or 2 drops of the green. And it does glow when under a fluorescent light, and whenever it's exposed to sunlight, it also glows a really bright green. It may not come out too well in this video, but in person, it pretty much looks like predator blood. And I kind of simulated some drops as he walks out of the jungle. And I collected some rocks and spread them around. This, what you see behind my masked one that the rock is sitting on, is actually a base from one of my 12-inch McFarlane Predators. I have 3 of those. I have the painted one, and I have 2 of the Stealth Predators. And I may dig into the closet and try to find the bases for those to put behind the other 2 Preds, but I'm not too worried about that right now. I don't want to push it by adding too much weight to these shelves. I kind of pushed it by adding it to that one, but I think it'll hold. I just can't believe the work that NECA did on these. The dreads are a rubber type material. They can be bent. They won't stay bent. There's no metal in them or anything, but they can be positioned where you want them, and they'll pretty much stay. And they are individual. Each dread is individual. It's not a hard sculpt like on a lot of Predator figures. The only thing missing from these heads, which I can add, which I will eventually, are the quills. Some guys online are actually already adding theirs. It is a detail that you miss when you get really, really close. But it can be added. Out of the 2 figures, my favorite are easily the closed mouth and the helmeted. The helmeted has always been the way the Predator looked in the movie. That was always my favorite, just because he looked like something that we've never seen before. He looked otherworldly. He just looked like he was ready for battle. So this is probably, out of those 2, this one's probably my favorite. This is the one I end up looking at the most. The blades are retractable. I choose to keep them fully extended because that's just the way I love the way that looks in the movie. And his right fist comes with 2 versions. It comes with a closed fist, and it also comes with an open fist. I chose the open fist for the closed mouth because with the fist closed in the movie, he just looks more indicative of Kevin Peter Hall as the Predator. There's some footage of him on set on one of the documentaries, priming for the camera, pantomiming, and at one point he has his fist closed and he kind of puts the blades down to the ground, just practicing for the camera. So that's why I chose that fist for the helmeted version. You won't be seeing the backs of mine because I have them tethered to the wall with fishing line. I've heard horror stories of guys whose Predators just decided to take a dive onto the floor, and there's no way I'm going to let that happen. It's a friggin' nightmare to me. So early on, as soon as I heard these were coming out and I heard that people had issues with theirs falling, I was like, no, that's not going to happen. So that's the best thing I could come up with. I have a piece of fishing line around their waist that goes back to the wall that is tied to steel drywall anchors. And they're not going anywhere. At least I hope not. And I figure that's a good way because even if they decide to lean forward, the fishing line will stop them from falling. It's a real relief knowing that they're fastened up there. I don't have to worry about in the middle of the night being asleep and hearing a large crash, which as a figure collector is a sound you don't want to hear, needless to say. So unfortunately I can't take these down and show you the backs of them. it would be too much of a pain to cut the line, which I would have to do. So, but you get the idea from what I'm showing you here. Even without seeing the backs, which I can promise you is just as detailed as the fronts and the sides and everywhere else you can imagine. So you really don't need to see them. The ARM computer is fully detailed. Nothing lights up, and the ARM computer does not open, which is something that kind of confused why NECA decided not to do that. But it's fine. All the details there at least. And there are guys online who are going to add LEDs to their targeting system, their plasma caster, and their ARM computer, so everything lights up. I'd really like to get that done, particularly with the helmeted version. And I think I'm going to get it done. And some guys are displaying theirs in cases. I decided to have mine just on the wall, flanking the Predator poster. I thought that was the perfect spot for it. The poster was always there, and as soon as I heard these were coming, I started making preparations. I made the shelves, painted them, put them up. I was like, perfect. Yeah, there's perfect amount of space on either side of that poster for the figures. And I was like, that's where they're going to go. I couldn't have designed a better scenario than that. The one thing I've always liked about NECA, and the die-hard figure collectors out there who collect statues and higher-end merchandise can say what they will, but they've always had an uncanny ability to capture not only the character, but also the actor that played them. And that's very important to me. I really, really wanted that. I just get tired of seeing Predator figures who, it looks like the Predator, but it doesn't really resemble Kevin at all. I mean, as awesome as the Hot Toys Predator is, it doesn't look like Kevin. It's a very cool figure, don't get me wrong, but it looks more like a stylized rendition of the Predator rather than the Predator that we saw in the movies. It looks a little too clean. I don't know what it is about it, but it doesn't have the quality, the organic quality that these have. I guess that's as good a way to put it as any, I suppose. I added some weathering to the backpack on the helmeted. I didn't do it for the other two because, as we know in the movie, by the time we saw him without his mask, he had already taken his plasma caster off. So I only added the weathering to the helmeted version. And I suppose that's it. They are articulated, not very much. I think there's like 20 points of articulation. The head turns, the arms move. But there's not much in the way of posability with these. So I would suggest when you get them, just put them the way you want them and just leave them. Just look at them. They're limited to 5,000 for each version. So if you're going to get them, I suggest you jump online and get them as fast as you can. Some people are even saying they're finding them at Toys R Us. So if you can go to your local toy store and find them, snatch them up. Because as a Predator fan, you're going to regret it if you don't. You're going to miss them, and you're going to be kicking yourself. So I had to have all three. There was no way I was going to settle for just one. So that's it. I'm sure there's guys out there that'll do more in-depth reviews, but this is only my 4th or 5th one, so I'm still kind of getting used to it. But those are my 19-inch Predators. And as a little message to NECA, please give us a Predator 2 19-inch. That would be sweet as well. So, to everybody out there who watched this, thank you. And to all my friends on Sideshow Freaks, see you in cyberspace.